Walk into almost any grocery store in America. You'll find beef, pork, chicken, maybe lamb or duck. But one animal that's incredibly good at producing meat is strangely hard to find: rabbit. And that's weird. Rabbits have many of the qualities you'd expect from an animal raised for food. So why do we eat billions of chickens, while the idea of eating a rabbit makes so many people uncomfortable? The answer isn't just about taste. It has to do with factories, war, disease, pets, and even the cartoons we watched as kids. Before we get into it, tell me what you think. Comment 1 if you'd be willing to try rabbit meat. Comment 0 if the idea already makes you uncomfortable. Remember your answer. I'll ask you again at the end. First, let's clear something up. Humans didn't stop eating rabbit. Not even close. In France, rabbit can still show up in an ordinary grocery store. Italy has traditional rabbit dishes that go back generations, and rabbit is also eaten in countries like Spain, Portugal, and China. So the real question isn't, why don't humans eat rabbits? It's, why is the exact same animal considered food in one culture, and almost a pet in another? The rabbit itself doesn't change. Its biology doesn't change when you cross a border. What changes is the way people think about it. And to understand why rabbit lost its place on dinner tables in countries like the United States and Britain, we need to look at the animal that took over instead. Chicken. Chicken isn't everywhere just because people like the taste. It's also almost perfectly suited for industrial food production. Chickens are small. They're relatively uniform in size. They can be raised using standardized systems. And most importantly, an enormous network of farms, processing plants, transportation systems, and restaurants has been built around them. Rabbit never fit that system quite as well. Rabbit carcasses are shaped differently, their bones are more delicate, and historically processing rabbits at large scale required more hands-on labor. So something interesting happened. Rabbit may be efficient on the farm, but chicken won in the factory. And once an entire industry is built around one animal, it's incredibly hard for another animal to take its place. But factories don't explain everything, because people don't just say rabbit is too expensive. A lot of people say I could never eat a rabbit. That's not economics, that's emotion. And to understand where that emotion came from, we have to go back to childhood. Imagine a kid growing up with a rabbit. Every morning, they feed it, they pet it, they watch it hop around the yard, and eventually, they give it a name. Maybe Charlie, Snowball, Bunny, whatever it is, something changes. It's no longer just a rabbit. Now it's an individual. After World War II, as life became more comfortable for many families in the United States and Britain, keeping pets became more common, and rabbits were perfect for the job. They're small, soft, quiet, and they don't require a huge amount of space. At almost the same time rabbits were disappearing from dinner tables, they were showing up more often in backyards as pets, and popular culture pushed that change even further. Peter Rabbit, Bugs Bunny, Thumper from Bambi, millions of kids grew up seeing rabbits not as livestock, but as characters with names, personalities, emotions, and stories. Often, they were characters you wanted to see escape the hunter. That's where an invisible line begins to form. Chicken, food. Cow, food. Dog, friend. Cat, pet. Rabbit. That depends a lot on where you grew up. And once an animal crosses into the pet category in our minds, moving it back into the food category becomes surprisingly difficult. So what do you think matters more when people decide whether an animal is food? Comment 1 if you think it's mostly about price and nutrition. Comment 0 if you think culture and emotion matter more. Because in the 1950s, something happened that pushed rabbits even further away from the dinner plate. In the 1950s, a disease called myxomatosis spread through rabbit populations in Europe. Britain was hit especially hard. Infected rabbits could develop severe swelling, they could go blind, and many died slowly. Images of suffering rabbits appeared in newspapers, and something began to change. A lot of people no longer saw rabbits simply as pests that needed to be controlled. They saw animals suffering. Animal welfare groups condemned the cruelty of the disease, and public sympathy for rabbits grew. Think about the three images people were now seeing at the same time. A funny rabbit on television, a pet rabbit in the backyard, and a sick rabbit suffering in a newspaper photograph. A character, a pet, a victim. All three pushed the rabbit further away from the idea of food. But here's what makes this story so strange. Just about a decade earlier, people in those same countries had been eating rabbit without thinking twice. During World War II, meat was limited. Families needed cheap sources of protein. In the United States, families were actually encouraged to raise rabbits at home. Guides were published explaining how to do it. In Britain, rabbit raising clubs became common. Back then, rabbit wasn't some weird exotic food. It wasn't controversial. It wasn't something you'd eat for a social media challenge. It was just dinner. Then the war ended. Food supplies recovered. Chicken became a massive industry. Rabbits became pets. Cartoons turned them into beloved characters. And disease made people feel sorry for them. Within just a few decades, the question changed from, how should we cook the rabbit tonight? To how could you possibly eat a rabbit? And here's the strange part. During all of that, the rabbit itself never became less efficient. In fact, once you look at the numbers, the story gets even stranger. For a moment, forget about culture. Forget about cartoons. Forget about emotion. Just look at the biology. A cow is pregnant for around 9 months. A rabbit, about 1 month. A cow usually gives birth to one calf at a time. A rabbit can have several babies in a single litter. And rabbits can reproduce again very quickly. The young also grow fast. According to the original comparison, they can reach meat-producing age in roughly 12 weeks. Now think about space. Cattle need land, large amounts of feed, water, and time. Rabbits can be raised in a much smaller area. They use less water than large livestock and can convert feed into protein efficiently. Rabbit meat is also extremely lean and high in protein. That's exactly why it made so much sense during wartime. So if biology were the only thing that mattered, rabbit should have become one of the world's most common meats. But it didn't. Because biology is only one part of the equation. For a meat to dominate the market, you also need factories, supply chains, restaurants, low prices, consumer habits, and most importantly, people have to accept that animal as food. Rabbit can win on a spreadsheet and still lose inside the human mind. And that's probably the most interesting part of this entire story. There is no biological rule that says cow equals food, chicken equals food, rabbit equals pet. We created those categories. History helped create them. Economics reinforced them. Childhood shaped them. Movies and cartoons strengthened them. And entire industries made them feel normal. That's why one person can look at a rabbit and think, that's adorable. While someone somewhere else can look at the exact same animal and think, that's dinner. Now imagine history had gone differently. What if, after World War II, enormous processing plants had been built around rabbits instead of chickens? What if kids had grown up watching cartoons where chickens had cute names, funny personalities, and always escaped from hungry humans? What if millions of American families kept chickens inside their homes as pets? Would eating chicken feel strange to us today? Maybe. And now let's go back to the question from the beginning. You walk into a grocery store tomorrow. Rabbit meat is sitting right next to chicken. It's legal, it's high in protein, it's raised specifically for food. After hearing this entire story, would you eat it? Comment 1 if you'd be willing to try rabbit meat now. Comment 0 if even after hearing all of this you still wouldn't eat it. I really want to see which side gets more votes. And if you enjoy strange questions about animals, food, and human behavior, subscribe for more. Because sometimes the animal isn't what changed. The rabbit never changed. We did.